Cancers are a large family of diseases that involve abnormal cell growth with the potential to invade or spread to other parts of the body. Cancer cells are an example of cells that do not heed the normal signals which shut down the cell division process. They continue to divide when they're very densely packed or if a protein that should regulate cell division is not functioning properly due to mutation. Normally, your body would recognize damaged cells, but for some reason, cancer cells seem to be almost invisible to the body. So when cancer begins, it invariably produces no symptoms. Signs and symptoms only appear as the mass continues to grow. We know that most normal cells will undergo a programmed form of rapid cell death called apoptosis when critical functions are altered. But if control of this cell cycle is lost, the result may be cancer. But how does that happen? Well, a proto-oncogene is a normal gene that can become an oncogene or a cancer-causing gene due to mutations or increased expression. A proto-oncogene codes for proteins that help to regulate cell growth and differentiation. So upon becoming activated into an oncogene, it becomes a tumor-inducing agent. So activated oncogenes cause these cells designated for apoptosis to survive and proliferate instead. Most oncogenes require additional steps such as mutations in other genes or environmental factors such as viral infections to cause cancer. But since the 70s, dozens of oncogenes have been identified in human cancer, and many cancer drugs target these genes. Outside of the oncogenes, there are also the tumor suppressor genes, which their job is just like it sounds like. Their job is to inhibit cell growth, to prevent tumors. The most common example of this is the gene p53, which stimulates proofreading enzymes to repair damage to DNA, because cancer cells don't become cancerous without several mutations. So if you can fix the mutations, you can fix the cancer. There are 6 key mutations or characteristics that are necessary for something to be truly cancerous. The first one is unlimited growth. We know that normal cells require growth factors to grow and divide. When the growth signals are absent, they stop growing. Well, cancer cells can grow and divide without these growth factors, or even produce their own because they have turned growth promoter genes like RAS on. The second major change is that they need to be able to ignore the checkpoints of cell cycles. So the tumor suppressor gene, a p53, which would normally inhibit cell growth, are turned off. So that prevents it from being affected. The third is to escape apoptosis, which is a form of programmed cell death. The mechanism by which cells are programmed to die in the event that they become damaged. This is a built-in suicide switch for your cells. Cancer cells are able to turn these genes off, these cell suicide genes, therefore bypassing this mechanism and surviving. The fourth, non-cancer cells die after a certain number of divisions. Cancer cells escape this limit and are apparently capable of indefinite growth and division, which we know is immortality. So there's this intrinsic limit to cells, the Hayflick limit, that limits their multiplication to about 60 to 70 copies, at which points they reach a stage of senescence and die. The counting device for cell doubling is the telomere, which loses DNA at the tips of every chromosome during each cell cycle. So for a cancer cell, more specifically to become immortal, it must turn chromosome maintenance genes on, so use an enzyme called telomerase to repair those telomeres. The next is promoting angiogenesis. Angiogenesis is the process by which new blood vessels are formed. Cancer cells appear to be able to kickstart this process, ensuring that such cells receive a continual supply of oxygen and other nutrients. Cancer cells initially lack this ability, limiting their ability to expand. So in order to progress, they must develop these genes by turning on the growth of blood vessels. The last is that cancer cells, to become truly cancerous, or what we typically refer to as malignant, they need to be able to overcome their anchorage and density dependence. So by being able to turn the touch sensor genes off for attachment purposes, cancers are able to invade other tissues and metastasize. So they need to turn those genes off. The great majority of cancers, some 90 to 95% of cases, are due to environmental factors. The remaining 5 to 10% are due to inherited genetics. Environmental, as used by cancer researchers, means any cause that is not inherited genetically, such as lifestyle, economic and behavioral factors, and not merely pollution. Common environmental factors that contribute to cancer death include tobacco, about 25 to 30%, diet and obesity, 30 to 35%, infections, 15 to 20%, radiation, up to about 10, stress, lack of physical activity, and environmental pollutants. So, if there is a chemical that we say causes cancer, we call it a carcinogen. There are other types of mutagens. Carcinogen is just one that leads to cancer. A benign tumor is a mass of cells that lacks the ability to invade neighboring tissues or metastasize. These characteristics are required for a tumor to be defined as cancerous, and therefore benign tumors are non-cancerous. Also, benign tumors generally have a slower growth rate than malignant tumors, and the tumor cells are usually more differentiated. Benign tumors are typically surrounded by an outer surface or remain within the epithelium of whatever organ or skin they are in. Although benign tumors will not metastasize or locally invade tissues, some can still produce negative health effects. The growth of tumors produce a mass effect that can compress tissues and may cause nerve damage, reduction of blood to an area, tissue death, and organ damage. And it's going to be more prominent in areas of enclosed space, such as the brain or the respiratory tract or inside your bones. But malignant tumors are different. They are able to spread. They are able to leave their original location. They turn off those touch sensor genes and are able to spread throughout the body or metastasize. So this is going to begin to impair functions of organs throughout the body. Benign tumors can become malignant tumors over time through a process of tumor progression, which is why you still need to remove both types of tumors. Many treatment options for cancer exist, with the primary ones including surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, hormonal therapy, some sort of targeted therapy, and palliative care. Which treatments are used depends on the type, location, and grade of the cancer, as well as the person's health and wishes. Chemotherapy is the treatment of cancer with one or more cytotoxic or cell killing anti cancer drugs as part of a standardized regimen. Radiation therapy involves the use of ionizing radiation in an attempt to either cure or improve the symptoms of cancer. It works by damaging the DNA of cancerous tissues, leading to cellular death. To spare normal tissues, such as skin or organs, which radiation may pass through to treat the cancer, shaped radiation beams are aimed from several angles of exposure to intersect at the tumor, providing a much larger absorbed dose there than in the surrounding healthy tissue. But both radiation and chemotherapy are all about killing rapidly dividing cells, but that does tend to come at the expense of healthy cells. Other treatments, let me mention, palliative care is dealing with the pain and other issues like that, not really dealing with the cancer. Targeted therapy is becoming much more common. New drugs are being developed to target proteins specifically part of tumor cells. For example, Gleevec, which is one that's used to treat adult leukemia and stomach cancer. So with a targeted therapy, you can kill the cancer cells without killing the person taking them. So this is where we're going in the future. Is there likely to be a cure for cancer? There is likely to be cures for cancers. Cancer is a grouping of diseases and problems, so there's not going to be one silver bullet treatment for this. But is a treatment possible for each individual type of cancer? Most likely.